Welcome, everyone, to episode 27 of the Thundercrafts podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. Lock up the Nitro girls, because I'm your host, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a big, overgrown piece of punk, Kyle Hoagland.
Oh, man, you gave me the Stevie Ray treatment. What's going on, everybody?
That I did, sir. How's it going? How have you been?
I mean, not too bad. I'm feeling a little. I feel like the classic winter bug has been biting. It's been surrounding me. I haven't gotten sick yet, but it feels like it's taken over every household that I have been in the past couple of days. So, fingers crossed. I haven't lost my smile or my voice yet. So let's hope that continues for at least a couple more weeks.
Well, that's good. And you know what? The best cure for the winter bug, Kyle, is a summer edition of WCW Thunder, and that's what we've got for you today. Thunder 27. It is August 13th, 1998. Road Wild is now in the past. That is in the rearview mirror, if you will. And we're looking forward to War Games. It's Fall Brawl coming up, Kyle. And this Thunder, we start right out here. We're live from Fargo, North Dakota, which is already the second Thunder.
I was hoping you were going to say North Carolina. I've been trying to drop it in, and hopefully that you would screw up, but good job.
Oh, thanks. Already the second Thunder in Fargo in 7 months' time, so that's pretty impressive, I guess. Commentary team lets us know that tonight the United States champion Lex Luger, of course, will be defending it against Bret Hart, who was the former United States champion, which also we had just found out recently. So that rematch, which of course we knew was going to be a title match tonight, is now a rematch from Nitro, I guess. Heenan, Tony, and Lee Marshall are here, and of course they're discussing War Games, and it sounds like it's, the NWO Black and White versus the Red and Black. That seems to be where the War Games is heading, but it's not official as of yet. The show's going to open up, though, Kyle. Out's going to come Scott Hall. It turns out he's actually in the opening match, which is good to see. But before the match gets started, he's going to cut a little promo here. He's going to say call himself the super sexy, the Nash Killer now. So he's not just medium sexy; he's up to super sexy. Does the survey time, which allows the commentary team to get a howl in for the Wolfpack. And
it's still so weird to see WCW commentary being clearly like on the side of an NWO faction. Still, I mean, when I was 13, I didn't pay any attention to it because I was a big fan of the Wolfpack because they were the face stable. Sure. But it's a weird thing now that I'm older and I've got all this knowledge, banked in, to now go back on and look at it. It feels like it should not be in any of their best interests to be, howling.
Right. Well, one thing you can always count on, Kyle, is Konnan, Scott Hall's opponent, going to come in, do his little spiel here before the match. And we're also going to
is Scott Hall the Konnan of the White and Black as far as coming out and like trying to get the crowd going for the White and Black? It just feels that way to me.
Yeah, he might be. You're right.
He's the hype man of the White and Black.
We are going to get our first sign of the night, and it's going to say, "We hate Fargo." So it's a little confusing, but there we have. But Tony Schiavone does note at this point that we do have a lot of fans that came down from Winnipeg, so perhaps it's a couple of the Canadian wrestling fans from up north down here saying, we're here to watch some wrestling, but we hate Fargo.
That's fair enough. It's all about civic pride in Fargo and Winnipeg, apparently.
That's right. This match is it's going to be okay. They do give it a lot of time. Commentary team is going to talk a lot about this whole brewing fight and brawl between the dissension, if you will, the arguments that's going on between the Black and White and the Red and Black, and talking about the NWO warfare that is going on. And Lee Marshall adds that Goldberg is like the gumbo that is the NWO warfare, which I don't know where that analogy comes from, but it is Lee Marshall. So
yeah, it's kind of like when you have like a senile grandpa. You're just like, okay, grandpa.
Right. As for the match, Hall dominates most of it. You do get a little bit of slapping back and forth at one point where Konnan kind of gets, his retaliation for Hall being the heel in the match. Hall is going to take the face smasher, the X Factor, whatever you want to call it, and he oversells it like he does a lot of things in wrestling. He's going to eventually go for the outsider's edge. It's going to get reversed into a schoolboy, but he's going to come back and he is going to execute that outsider's edge for a clean 3 count. And for that, Kyle, I gave it 2 stars. I'm really not a fan of Konnan. I realize now, like in 98, I thought I was, and we've discussed this before, but just I'm not feeling his wrestling anymore. He just looks slow and out of it, but I was glad to see Scott Hall get a win here.
Absolutely, and I think I might have graded this a little bit higher because of that. I was pleasantly surprised by this match. I gave it 2 3/4. I think it was paced well. No one really looked blown up at the end of it. I know you said that I'm on the same boat as you about Konnan. I think we had some rose tinted glasses with Konnan back in the day. I think we were just so hyped about his energy as far as like pandering. Like that, I think that's what sold us on him. And he was kind of like a cool guy, but as far as like being like a Mac tactician specialist, in '98, Konnan was not that. I liked that there was no outside interference, which was kind of surprising for a NWO match of any sorts.
Very surprising.
Yeah, there was a low blow. Which I don't know what Silverman was doing, just like chatting to somebody outside, but he was totally out of position to let Scott Hall get a low blow in. But I like that it wasn't like a direct result of the win. Obviously, Konnan does fight back at the end, tries a schoolboy for a win, and then I think Scott Hall just hits him with a clothesline, then ultimately gets him with the outsider's edge. But the reason why I grade this so high is because Scott Hall, with the combination of him being out for so long with his personal stuff and obviously jobbing to Goldberg, and I think he's been more or less kind of pushing the other talent when he gets the chance to. It was really good for him to finally get like a marquee win. It's been a while, and I think it was
a win over Konnan on Thunder considered a marquee win.
I think it is, though, because Konnan's pushed pretty hard. He's a former U.S. champion. He's a member of the face NWO faction. Everybody cheers. Everyone's been cheering Konnan. If you really wanted to make the crowd go home happy, you would put Konnan over. But I think it's kind of reestablishing that pecking order. That people need to stop sleeping on Scott Hall. He's the original NWO member. Right. He is a well-established superstar of wrestling, and it just seems like ever since we've been watching Thunder, I don't even know the last time I even saw the Outsider's Edge. So I like the fact that the creative didn't just push the hype of the Wolfpack and make it where if you're in the Wolfpack, you're basically invincible unless you're jumped by 3 or 4 NWO white and black people. So. I'm very, very happy with the way that this was a clean win for Scott Hall.
Speaking of the Outsider's Edge, did you find it impressive that he was able to get Konnan up there?
Well, I think the thing you got to understand is, and I understand that once again we've been talking about that Konnan is like a sack of wet cement, but Scott Hall is still near 6'7", almost a 300-pound man.
Oh, he's
strong.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a
diamond stud.
I don't know what it is, but it's just something about getting Konnan up there. I just feel like, I don't know, like you said, Konnan just seems like just a lump there. So,
well, I think also if you're going to go for the end of the match, you're going for the finish. Obviously, you're supposed to help out. Like if the outsider's edge is not exactly up anything where you gotta like put yourself in like a powerbomb position, you got to assist the person who's executing the move a little bit. You got to spring into it. You got to give him a little bit of a heads up. And also the WCW rings are a little bit more trampoliny than the WWE ones were back in the day. So I'm sure it didn't need too much effort. But I think Konnan knows that if he wants the match to look good, he needs to still also lose gracefully.
Fair enough. After the match, commentary team going to discuss War Games a little bit, thinking it's going to be NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack, and possibly Goldberg involved again. So much like Road Wild, which, of course, Goldberg did win that battle royal between the NWO Black and White and Red and Black. But
so does that mean that Goldberg is not going to defend his title again on a pay-per-view?
It does seem that way, yes.
Jesus Christ. Seriously, if we were to go back and look at the last 5 pay-per-views.
What we're going to do is once we get to Starrcade, which, of course, we do know Goldberg is going to defend the title then, sure, we need to count how many world title defenses between Goldberg and Hogan happened in the calendar year at pay-per-views. So I'm going to be curious what that number is.
I think it'll be surprising for most. I don't think it's going to be surprising for us because I think you and I have been keeping like a very. Right. I mean, once again, we're not keeping an official count, but I think we have one in our heads that is definitely siding on the going towards the side of not defending the title.
Right. After that, we'll get our Saturday night promo, which is just letting us know we got a 2-hour Saturday night this Saturday, Kyle. And Dean Malenko, Curt Hennig, Rude, The Flock, and Raven will all be there. So
I think they're wrestling, maybe.
Right. Speaking of The Flock and Raven, out comes Raven with Lodi. He's going to be wrestling Horace in a match. On his way to the ring, he gets soaked with like a beer or some sort of beverage, which he knows sells pretty well. He's going to get on the mic and basically say that Horace has been insubordinate. He's going to blame Horace for his loss in that triangle match, Triple Jeopardy, whatever they're calling it these days, at Road Wild. And also that Saturn gave Raven a Death Valley driver, and he's also blaming Horace for that. So, Horace is getting punished for all of this. And he begins the attack on Horace with the microphone to begin the match. Of course, Raven's rules in effect, so no disqualification. At one point, Raven is going to take a stop sign, and he's going to go to attack Horace with it. Lodi's going to get in the ring and kind of stop Raven from doing that, which then allows Horace to kick the stop sign into Raven's face and get a near 3 count, which I almost thought that's how the match was going to end. And then the high flyer that is Horace goes top rope for that big splash, Kyle. Of course, the fastest from the turnbuckle to mat, as we discussed, I think last week or the week before. Out comes the Flock. The commentary team doesn't seem to even care that they're out there at first. Eventually, Raven's going to have the Flock come in the ring, beat the shit out of Horace. That's going to get your disqualification in a Raven's rules match.
Exactly. What the fuck?
Out comes Saturn to help clear the ring. Then Horace is going to attack Saturn from behind. This lets the Flock come back in to attack Saturn. Then Canyon's going to come out. He's going to hit a bunch of different moves from it, but they're all going to be referred to as a flatliner because the commentary team apparently doesn't know.
They did that last time.
They have done this, yes. It's like they have the flatliner. I feel so bad for
Canyon. He's trying to market himself, and all that Lee Marshall is doing is calling everything a flatliner.
The worst part is he does the flatliner, and then he does that electric chair move.
You were about to say it,
and Lee Marshall goes, flatliner, and another flatliner. I'm like, those were 2 completely different moves. Like, how do you even do that? So then Saturn's going to attack Canyon. That's kind of it. I'm not rating this, Kyle, mostly because it wasn't much of a match. Raven's Rules had a DQ finish, and then it was just totally fucking chaotic, and it seemed like it dragged on after the match.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I did rate it, but I totally understand if a rating doesn't really make sense because this is more of a. Once again, this is what happens. This is really the end result of too many cooks, making the soup. Like we talked before about how maybe a month ago or so, where we thought that Raven had a lot of multiple angles, where he had some dissension with the Flock. He fired the Flock. He brought them back. He had the Riot Squad. He had Canyon, not being in WCW, but being a bystander, attacking him out of nowhere, disguised as, a drink vendor. And you have Saturn, who was in the Flock, but wasn't in the Flock. He was only just his friend. This is what happens when all those things now have to have some sort of chaotic ending, is that now Raven has so many different hats he has to wear as far as the storylines he's pushing, that now this is what happens, is at the end of all of his matches, everybody just comes in and just beats the living fuck out of everybody at different times. You go from Raven beating up somebody in the Flock to the guy to Horace who's in the Flock fighting back to everybody in the Flock beating up on Horace, looking like they're going to kick him out of the Flock. And then Saturn shows up to save it. And Horace comes in, beats up Saturn because he's still in the Flock and, gets orders from Raven. Then you have Canyon coming in. It's such a weird, wrestling triangle of just, it's really chaotic. And I think there's no one to blame, but the fact that we never really tied up any loose ends with Raven and all these other storylines he's been a part of.
That's correct. We haven't. And hopefully soon enough we will, but until then it's going to be total chaos. After the match, Tony Schiavone's going to be interviewing Stevie Ray, and we find out that Stevie Ray, Kyle, had lost the television title that was not totally his to begin with to Chris Jericho this past Monday. It's also worth noting that Chris Jericho lost the Cruiserweight title this past Saturday at Road Wild, so Jericho was without a title for a day and a half, but now he is Cruiserweight champion. But the committee's going to have to look into that a little bit further to see if it's valid or not. Then Stevie Ray is going to continue to go through this promo, and I kind of think that he said the Giant chokeslammed him at one point. He's maybe challenging the Giant to a match at Thunder next week. He says that Booker T told him to get that television title back for him. And then Tony's going to mention to him that he's got a match with Eddie Guerrero later tonight, and Stevie Ray says, I don't wrestle them cruiserweights, which you and I know is a load of bullshit, because that's pretty much all he's been defending his television title against. And also in the process, it buries the cruiserweights and Eddie Guerrero by basically saying Stevie Ray's a level above them, when Stevie Ray's not much, at least from a wrestling standpoint. I wouldn't put in a level above Eddie Guerrero. And
all I thought to myself was, man, I really hope Eddie Guerrero comes up with some win in the match against him. Because I really didn't like that. I get what Stevie Ray is trying to get at. Like, yeah, he's a near 300-pound guy. He's all about power. I understand he says, hey, it's not my weight class, and he could have just said something like that. Hey, you look like, I'm not used to wrestling out of my weight class or something like that. But once again, I think it's hard for you to say anything like that and not make it sound like I'm above. Yeah. So
right.
I get that. And also, I love the fact that Chris Jericho, of anybody, is the new television champion, because he's been such the legal eagle about, trying to be a sniffling coward about defending titles. He beats a guy who technically isn't the TV champion. Right. And then he's going to try and find a way to, make that legit.
It is pretty
I'm totally
good.
The television champion. So I love the irony of that.
You did bring up one point in your notes, Kyle, about Stevie Ray. We're not sure whether you made a comment. You're not sure whether we should be cheering him or booing him at this point, if he's a face or a heel, because at some points he seems like he's a heel, and then he's talking shit about the Giant in the NWO and how he's going to take care of the Giant, and he's feuding now with the NWO and the Giant, which would put him in as a face, but he's also not a face.
Yeah, it's one of those things where his attitude is definitely heelish. He's definitely gonna come off as being such.
Yeah. I mean, he took his brother, who was a face, his title, and says, "Oh, I'm defending it for him in his honor." But you all know that's bullshit. So yeah, a lot of what he does is heelish, and up to this feud with the Giant, you thought that was what it was. I don't know. It is a weird situation.
But also, it's not just that. This is not just the Giant. I think a couple weeks ago, his matchups with Cyclope, Doc Dean, those guys. He fought Konnan, and then I can't remember who he last fought, but it was also another heel. And it was just one of those things where, who are you supposed to side with? Clearly, the Giant is a heel and a part of a heel faction. Whereas it's just, I'm okay with if Steve Ray is just a dick. I'm okay with that. You need to be more than that to me. Sure. In the landscape of wrestling to just be booed at. Steve Austin was a dick, but he was definitely cheered. You could definitely tell your instincts tell you to cheer for that guy. My instincts right now tell me that I should be booing Stevie Ray, but the way that they're writing for him is really, really confusing, and it's tugging at my instincts to boo him.
I agree. After this interview, Chris Jericho is going to be defending this television title against Chavo Guerrero. We are going to get our second sign of the night, and it says "Fat Chicks Rule," and it's written on some guy's chest.
Right in the front row.
Right in the front row, yep. At one point, Jericho's going to get bit on the butt, which Heenan says, "Oh, Tony, you've never been bit on the butt before," which Tony doesn't want to discuss on commentary at all. Jericho at one point, basically this match is going to end after Jericho rips off Pepe's head and stomps on it. This leads to Chavo getting another backup Pepe that was taped to a baseball bat. He's going to hit Jericho to get the DQ finish. Overall, the match was, I thought, solid. I gave it 2.25 stars. They gave it a lot of time. I thought the ending was a little weak, though, and that's kind of where I left it at the 2.25 rating.
And that's kind of why I gave it a little bit higher of a rating. I gave it 2 3/4. Match was really entertaining. I mean, it might not have been the best wrestling match that I think those two are capable of going.
They're capable of a better match for sure.
But I think once again, this match has a lot more to do with the fact that Chavo was just batshit crazy. The ending may not have been the best, but I think it was actually very appropriate. I think we were all pretty sure that Jericho was not just going to drop the title to Chavo, and a clean win against Chavo I don't think wouldn't have been as satisfying and entertaining to me as this one with Chavo busting out a second Pepe that's attached to a bat. Like, I thought that was goofy, but it wasn't too goofy. I liked it. Both guys came out looking fine in the match, and you might as well just go with the selling of Chavo's a lunatic angle and go through it with that. It's a DQ finish. Maybe you don't like seeing that in title matches, but I would think that most people were going into this match hopefully that it wasn't like, oh, this is Chavo's chance to win the TV title. I think this was more showcasing where Chavo is progressing with his nut house type of character at this point.
Yeah. After this commentary team, which is now Mike Tenay instead of Lee Marshall, they're going to discuss Lex Luger and about him winning the title over Bret on Nitro. And this is where we're going to get our first replay of the night, which is a bunch of still photos because, again, we can't see live footage from Nitro for whatever reason. And it's Bret basically says, they want to do their match tonight on Nitro instead of Thunder. And Luger's going to get the torture rack, which Hart is going to tap out of. Before he was able to use some sort of foreign object, it looked like he had some knuckles of some sort. And the commentary team lets us know in one calendar year, Lex Luger was the United States World and Tag Team Champion. So they're saying what a year he's had. Though I feel like the fact that he's way out of the world title picture at this point means he's really heading on the downhill, the decline. But whatever. He's the United States champion.
He's the United States champion, and he's also dude. The guy's busy. He's the Wolfpack recruiter. So
he is the Wolfpack recruiter, and he's in his time as Wolfpack recruiter has only lost 2 members. So he's really done a bang up job. After this, Bret Hart's going to come out and cut a promo, and he says, basically the fans might be against him, but he's not going to lose tonight. He says Luger can't railroad him again, and he's going to enjoy kicking the crap out of Luger and excellently executing him.
I get it.
And we're going to get our third sign of the night. And this says, Bret Hart, we know you don't have any friends because you're a loser. So, tough words from the Fargo crowd.
I will say this. I will give credit where it's due. We have been very, very critical about certain crowds. I think we really shit on the Oakland crowd last or 2 weeks ago.
We did.
And how it just felt like a bunch of people who just won tickets to a show that they weren't aware was a wrestling show. And they didn't know where to cheer or when to boo. It was just a bunch of people just standing and watching. Fargo, there's a reason why Fargo has had 2 shows throughout this calendar year. They bring it. They're actually I actually really enjoyed their crowd.
Part of that might be because of the Winnipeg crowd and the Canadians coming down there, because Canadians are notorious good wrestling fans. So that may be a part of it as well.
It could be, but I do remember the last time we talked about the show at Fargo. I think we gave Fargo credit saying that the crowd brought it, and the crowd's bringing it this time too.
I think we gave them credit for a good crowd and bad signs, and that would hold true this week as well.
Yeah.
After this, the Dancing Fools are back, Kyle, accompanied to the ring with Tokyo Magnum versus Public Enemy. So this is one of the hottest feuds of the summer, easily of
deja
Thunder.
Vu, seriously.
And by the way, these teams just wrestled at Road Wild, which turned into a street fight, if you will.
I looked at the last 6 weeks of wrestling. They've wrestled 5 times.
I believe that. As for this match, Public Enemy is going to dominate most of the match. Eventually, they're going to put a table into the corner of the ring. Alex Wright's about to get, kind of a splash move into it, but Tokyo Magnum is going to move him out of the way, and he's going to take the table shot instead. And this is going to lead to Alex Wright getting the neck breaker. Dancing Fools are going to win here, Kyle. I gave it a 1.75 stars. I thought the way that ending, which I described with Tokyo Magnum and moving Alex Wright, it was much slower than I even made it sound. And it was just, I don't know, a weak ending. Another weak ending that we've seen between these tag teams here on Thunder.
I also gave it a 1.75 stars for a much different reason. I thought the match was okay. No real botches, some decent spots. The ending I was fine with. I think what you're trying to describe is something that was overly choreographed. and not something that probably felt more natural as far as an ending. And because it's choreographed, it's going to be a little bit slower. It's going to look a little bit more methodical, and it's probably not something that we would like. And something like this, you want to see, like, you know, when somebody is going to take a bump for somebody else, it should look like, oh, Alex Wright barely got out of the way, but clearly Alex Wright was going to get out of the way. Like that looked very, very much telegraphed that Tokyo Mania was going to take the table shot. But the reason why I dropped this down a little bit lower, and this is just a continuation of why the hell do we even have a ref in tag matches? I believe it was Alex Wright got the pin on Grunge when Rocco Rock and Disco Inferno were the legal men. And they were just on the outside, just kind of like doing God knows what. But it just kind of drives me nuts that as soon as I notice that, okay, Rocco and Disco spilled out on the outside, and now it's just Grunge and Alex Wright, I just thought to myself, like, oh, watch these two just fucking finish this match. And they did, and it really bummed me out. And I can't remember who was the ref. I assume it was either Silverman or Mickey J. But either way, man, it just bums me out that these little things, like, I would love it if a ref was just like, hey, you two, get out of the ring. You're not the legal men. You two, get back in here. Apparently I am, but I feel like it's not a lot to ask for. Is it too much for me to ask for, you know, some actual choreography that's going to be consistent with the rules of wrestling? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, well, one day you'll get that. Of course, after this match, Ming's going to come in and destroy the ring as he...
Who called that? All of us.
You get a tongue and death grip. You get a tongue and death grip. Everybody gets a tongue and death grip. But Barbarian and Jimmy Hart, they're going to come out. They're going to get tongue and death grips. Rocco Rock is going to get to the top rope and stand there awkwardly for about 15 or 20 seconds.
He went to the other turnbuckle.
Yeah. He hops down, goes to another one. He's going to then get caught into the tongue and death grip, as is Johnny Grunge. Referees are going to get tongue and death grips. Security's going to come out. They're going to get tongue and death grips. Ming cannot be stopped, Kyle. So that's what we're pushing here. Ming is a total monster, and I believe this is leading to the Goldberg versus Ming world title match, if I recall correctly.
You are incorrect, actually. That took place on Nitro.
Oh, that already happened?
It happened. They had a lumberjack match on Nitro. That was the main event. It was Ming versus Goldberg, and it had the Wolfpack and the Black and White surrounding the ring.
And this has already happened? It's not happening soon to happen?
No, this happened on the same night that Luger beat Bret Hart for the U.S. title.
So this past Monday.
Did you know that when Luger beat Bret Hart for the U.S. title, that was like the fourth or third to last match on the card on Nitro?
An hour change, like at the 9 to 10 hour or something like that.
Maybe. You could be right.
After this, Kevin Nash is going to come out. He's going to cut a promo and says, apparently on Nitro, Goldberg speared Nash in retaliation to a chair shot that he thought Nash gave him, which Nash had not. Nash is basically going to say that he understands why Goldberg did that, and that Goldberg got him a beer, and the two are cool together. And Goldberg, if you need some laundry in the future, there's a red and black NWO t-shirt with your name on it. So Nash kind of stepping on Lex Luger's recruiting duties here by offering a Wolfpack shirt to Goldberg. And man, how things would have been different had Goldberg accepted that, Kyle.
I think that basically would have spelled the end of any kind of semblance of WCW. At that point, I think all you would have had was DDP and Raven and Chris Benoit and maybe Booker T. But Chris Benoit's been gone for the past 4 weeks. Booker T's been gone for the past 4 weeks. DDP's been around, but I mean, he's not really been part of any type of discussion of any sorts other than
DDP's
wrestling with Jay Lendo.
He's been doing the main event stuff.
Sure, but but I feel like those are so gimmicky that they're not. It's not the landscape of WCW. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're going to get our fourth sign of the night at this point, and it says we've been drinking since 3:16. So it was a nice play on the old 3:16 signs. And back from the commercial break, Kyle, before Curt Hennig's going to come out for this match against Kevin Nash, we're going to see a couple of fans in the front row, shirts off, face painted like the Ultimate Warrior. And Fargo, we are blaming you. We're adding you to the list. That's all I'm saying. You to the list.
I could have sworn that the first time that we because Fargo had a show maybe 2.5 months ago. Right. I think they were on the list at the beginning.
They may have been on the list, actually.
I think they were the inaugural city on our list of asshole cities that tried to push this whole Ultimate Warrior coming back to WCW. So we doubly blame the city of Fargo.
Yeah, absolutely. This match, though, it's going to be Nash and Hennig, which is good to see on paper. Tenay's going to let us know it's the first time they've wrestled each other as NWO members, but not the first time in their careers they've wrestled each other. So it's nice that Tenay, our historian, is going to let us know and not feed us some bullshit that's the first time they've ever seen each other. Nash is going to get his early stuff in where he holds his boot to Hennig's throat in the corner. Hennig's going to kind of gain control, and after Rude interferes, or distracts, I should say, he's going to work the leg, which Kevin Nash is actually going to sell as he kind of limps around the ring, which was interesting to see. Eventually, Rude's going to throw the referee out of the ring. Scott Hall's going to come out there, and it's a Hennig, Hall, and Rude beat down to Kevin Nash before Lex Luger's able to make the save. Again, I did not rate this one because I thought it was just kind of thrown out and didn't really happen.
Yeah, I agree. I did give it a rating, but it's inconsequential. It's all of this is the progression of the Wolfpack Hollywood hatred boner that they have for each other. I think this also kind of continues the Scott Hall Kevin Nash wedge that they're now kind of driving between themselves. Even though maybe it wasn't a focus. It could have been anybody from the Black and White that could have came out and beat on Nash. It was just the fact that Hall was the one that came out to do it. I guess is going to further that story, but that could have easily been Vincent or Scott Norton or anybody that could have helped with the beatdown. Maybe not Vincent, but I definitely agree that this was a throwaway match. Although I did enjoy having both of them in the ring. I think it's just when you're starving for star power on Thunder for so long, that when you finally get done the match, you almost just appreciate just that.
That's fair. While you were breaking down the match, I wanted to let you know I went back and looked. April 16th, so almost 4 months to the day, we were at Thunder in Fargo. That was the 14th episode of Thunder, so 13 episodes ago. There was a sign in the crowd that says, "Bring back the Warrior." And in my notes it said, "It's your fault, Fargo." So I do believe Fargo was the first, and now they're continuing the trend of wanting Ultimate Warrior to come back.
Do they not know who Ultimate Warrior is now in 1998? Like, are they lost in the past? Like, that dude's blown out, dude. Like, I don't know if anyone saw him fight Triple H, but I did, and it was dog shit. So you really want that? All right, I guess.
Apparently they do. After this, though, they're going to get a match they really wanted, and that's Stevie Ray against some cruiserweight named Eddie Guerrero. During the match, the Giant and Scott Hall are going to come out to the entrance ramp, drinking something out of their red Solo cups that you're hinted at, maybe some alcoholic beverages of sorts.
Well, according to Heenan, he said that sometimes when you put too many lemons in your drink, it gets a little sour. So I think that's what they were attributing to, is that's the reason why it felt so strong.
I see. Yes. And it says it looks like the Giant has accepted Stevie Ray's match, Kyle, so we get the Giant versus Stevie Ray to look forward to next week on Thunder. So that should be a good one. And a clean slapjack finish for Stevie Ray in this match. I gave it 2 stars. It was a fine match. I just hate that they're burying Eddie Guerrero in this match. And I understand Stevie Ray needs to win. He needs to look good for a match against the Giant. But why does it have to be against Eddie Guerrero?
I couldn't agree more. This match made me super sad. I already said before, that whole promo with Stevie Ray just made me really, really want Eddie Guerrero just to come up with some sort of like a small package or a schoolboy just kind of roll up win just to put a sour taste in Stevie Ray's mouth, have him lose 2 matches in a row, bring him back down to earth a little bit, but it wasn't meant to be. I agree the match is okay. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not a huge fan of all those cutbacks from the entrance to the ring. If you're gonna do it all at once, or maybe wait until it's closer to the end of the match. I could not keep up with what was going on with the match or the pacing of it, because it kept on going back and forth with them. And I do understand that probably in 1998, the NWO being at the entranceway drinking adult beverages was probably going to draw more than Stevie Ray. But as us, you and I are the consummate historians of wrestling. I can definitely see that if it was a match that I was really interested in, and especially if we're going to do a podcast about it, and I want to kind of pay attention to see how the match was handled, it kind of makes you really it puts a light on these types of I guess strategies as far as what they want to do with matches and do these cutaways like this. And it just, I don't think you and I have ever had positive things to say about any type of where cutaways or entrance was. I think the only one we liked was when Bagwell did it with Luger, just because Bagwell just looked like it's just a bored asshole. It was kind of funny, but this was you didn't need this. Like this totally didn't need to happen. And yeah, going back to Eddie Guerrero, it is a real shame that is like the fall from grace. That's Eddie Guerrero. When we were doing the old podcast 2 years ago, he almost beat Ric Flair on Nitro, and now he's getting squashed by a mid-carder who can barely wrestle. So, and then once again, I agree, Stevie Ray needs to look strong, but man, why Eddie Guerrero?
Yep, absolutely. After this, we're going to move to our main event. Of course, Bret Hart challenging Lex Luger for the United States Championship. And the match opens out with USA chants, which is always good to see. Bret is going to dominate most of this match, kind of attacking, sort of excellently executing against Luger throughout the match. Every time it looks like Luger's about to gain a little bit of momentum, the referee will get in the way, and then Hart's able to use a heel tactic to get it right back. So they're basically telling the story here that Lex is trying to fight, between the confines of the rules, where Hart is going to take every little advantage he can take. And at one point, one of the best moments of the night as far as commentary goes, Tenay is going to say hell as he's quoting something I think that Bret Hart said, and Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan are giving him so much shit for saying it, as though he was like a good old boy that used the bad word. Apparently he said damn last week, and they give him shit for that, and then Heenan says next thing you know he's going to be drinking an O'Doul's, which got me to crack up a little bit. But as far as the match, very methodical on Bret Hart's part. You see a lot of his, a lot of typical Bret Hart moves, but this to me, Kyle, is the best I've seen Bret Hart on Thunder, easily. He really called a good match here, because you got to assume he was the one who kind of led this match. Lex did not have to do a whole lot, which was good. He'd get his, he'd come back in, get his forearms in, and as soon as he'd regain control, something would happen. Bret eventually is going to grab a chair. He's going to bring it into the ring, but Luger's going to clothesline him before he can use it. Then Luger's going to grab the chair like he's going to go after Bret. Of course, the referee's going to grab the chair, and Luger and the ref are going to kind of get into it. This leads to Hart pushing Luger into the ref, knocking the ref out, so Bret can get a DDT onto the chair. He wakes the ref up. 1, 2, kick out, so Luger still alive. Then he applies the sharpshooter, and Luger's going to pass out, taps out. That's your winner. Bret Hart is the champion once again. I gave this 3 stars for a myriad of reasons. We had a Thunder main event between an NWO member of the black and red and black and white go head-to-head with the title on the line. There was no interference. It wasn't necessarily clean because of the chair and the referee and stuff like that, but that's okay because it was a heel doing heel shit. Bret Hart looked great. He made Luger look good. They gave it enough time. It was a solid main event. And, taking all that consideration, I rated it on a curve for sure, but I gave this 3 stars. I really enjoyed this.
See, I felt like I wasn't grading it on a curve, but then again, I guess the only curve I would say is I have, for the most part of the night, have graded a little bit higher on the matches than you have. And because of that, obviously, which was good, because it wouldn't have made sense if I would have rated this lower or the same as you. I gave this 3 1/4, which is up there. It's probably one of the higher starred matches. Definitely probably the highest of a main event. I actually put this down as an instant Thunder classic, which is an oxymoron, I think. Both guys showed up and put on. And once again, I'm kind of echoing a lot of things that you said. Like it was well paced. They wrestled for 10 minutes, whereas normally 10 minutes is all you had left for the entrance and the end of the show.
And 4 minutes
let
of
alone
and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that from the Ring of the Bell to Ring of the Bell, it was a 10-minute match. I love that. There was no outside interference. It really played into the intelligence of Bret. And taking advantage of the moments where Silverman had to intervene in order to keep that dastardly Luger from breaking the rules, apparently. It felt like Lex had the momentum at all times until Silverman had to get involved, which may be a little bit annoying. It's kind of like just let them wrestle. But I mean, I think that's where
I think that's the story they're telling, though. That you as a fan behind Luger, you're frustrated because it's like Luger's doing everything right, and Bret Hart is able to get the upper hand by doing these tactics where Luger can't get away with the same ideas and stuff.
Yeah, and I like that storytelling, especially if you're not going to have any outside interference. You had to have something. Bret Hart wasn't just going to – if Bret Hart was going to come out with the title, I don't think anybody was going to like a clean win for Bret Hart. And I don't even Bret Hart probably wouldn't have liked it if he was going to play the heel role. So it was overall a really good showing from both guys.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of ends the show. We are going to get our fifth sign of the night, and it says, "Where is Six?" So I don't know if we want to break the news to anyone in Fargo that they should be changing the channel over to Raw, or and can find their boy Six over there.
Wait, when was that first Fargo? Was that like right around WrestleMania? Like maybe Six
April
was still in the company.
16th. So
it's around then. It's right around then.
Yeah, I don't remember. It might have been just after, but that's a good question.
So maybe they just never knew. They're only Thunder watchers just like us, so they just don't know what's going on with Six since the last time Thunder came into town.
That would be something. And March 29th was WrestleMania, so it would have been the 30th or something like that. So it was about 2 weeks after
2 weeks,
WrestleMania. Yeah. That's it, Kyle. That's our Thunder. What did you think about it? Because I think by the match ratings, you enjoyed it a little bit more than I did, maybe.
Here's the thing about it. We've been talking about, I guess the good and bad about I guess Thunder's traditional, I guess, lineup or their show structure, where it's been kind of a Nitro recap show. And maybe, with maybe showing a little bit of storyline and a couple promos. This was a very wrestling heavy show. There was really not a lot of recap. What there were stills, really not much to sink your teeth into. And I think we're starting to move forward on that, where I think Thunder does not want to be a show that takes away from, or it wants to give somebody the idea that, I don't need to watch Nitro because I can just watch Thunder and get everything I needed from Nitro. So I think it's now turning into a good idea, or a good strategy to say, like, look, we will mention things that happen on Nitro if they pertain to this particular show, and just kind of say, hey, this is the reason why this match is happening, or obviously we need to know that Luger won the U.S. title in order to make sense of what the hell we're going to watch when he comes down to the ring with the U.S. title for the main event. There's got to be some questions answered. But yeah, this was like I said, a very heavy wrestling show. The majority of the matches were nothing spectacular. And I said 2 of them you didn't even rate. But as a whole, I think they all worked out really well to create an overall enjoyable show. I felt the nonsense was kept to a minimum, and while not much was advanced, they still kept the major feuds going on, and most of the big guns came out for the show, which is another thing that I think we have complained, that where we'll say, hey, there was no this guy, or that guy. I think for the people that are relevant in the current feuds, they were all here. So we didn't have Goldberg or Hogan or anything, but I think that there really isn't anything for either one of them that is very focused on much at all. Eddie's the only thing that I felt was the downer or a drag was the discussion of Eddie Guerrero. And the fact that as much as maybe the match was okay, I really hate the decision that it was Eddie that decided to put Stevie Ray over. And maybe we didn't think that way in '98. Maybe it was a good idea to get Stevie Ray against somebody who actually has some sort of pedigree. Maybe it's because of who Eddie Guerrero is or was now to us. It feels a little bit more of a shot to the gut to watch a guy like Eddie Guerrero lose it was a squash match. Let's be honest. If you actually got a chance to watch the match,
it was.
Eddie really didn't have a chance in that match. The main event was very satisfying, which is once again something you really can't say very often for Thunder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The main event was satisfying. One of the most satisfying main events, if not the most. Like I said, some of the other matches, I thought there was a lot of throwout matches between the Flock and Public Enemy and, Hennig and
Nash. And Hennig. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a throwaway. It was, but to your point, we did see a handful of the stars that we don't normally see. I mean, you had Hart, Luger, Giant, Hall, Nash, Hennig, Raven was here. So we did see a lot of the bigger names, not all of them, but that's okay. that did help it, but overall, I think it was just because the matches that happened were good, the others were bad, just because they just were throwaways. I guess I shouldn't say they were bad matches, just throwaways. So for me, it was an okay Thunder. Wasn't bad, wasn't great, but definitely was a great main event. So we'll have to see if they can stick with it next week, Kyle, as we return for the 28th episode of Thunder. Of course, that'll be the August 20th, 1998 edition, and our main event could be Stevie Ray versus the Giant. So check that out. We'll be back next week with that. And if you haven't subscribed or reviewed us, please go do it. It really helps us on whatever podcast listening device you use. Tell your friends. Let's get some more listeners. Let's keep this Thunder rolling on. Of course, you can always follow us at Thundercraps on Twitter and interact with us there. Thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes as well. For Kyle Hoagland, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are slapjackingly out of time. See ya.